Namaskar. Today we are going to talk about Ashtanga Yoga and mental health. I am in Monterey Yoga Shala, and here is Heleen Zondag-Williams, who is owner and instructor in Monterey Yoga Shala and Heleen Yoga. Welcome to my AV Lifetime channel. I found this Yoga Shala in the article with 10 best Ashtanga Yoga studios in the US. And I will put below the video the information about that. So what is Ashtanga Yoga?
Hi everyone. Ashtanga Yoga is a form of yoga where the breath and movement are linked together in a set series of asanas. Mm-hmm. And the form of yoga is developed by Sri K. Pattabhi-Jois, who worked on it with his teacher Krishnamacharya.
What are the differences between Ashtanga and other types of Hatha
So there's
yoga?
many types of yoga. Ashtanga Yoga stands out because it's a continuous flow from asana to asana. And the flow of the practice has certain aspects to it. We breathe a certain breath. The movement from one posture to the other is called vinyasa. We use a gazing point called drishti. And we use bandhas, which are locks, you can describe it as locks in the body, to create a certain heat so the practice becomes easier. So all of these aspects create this flowing sequence, whereas other types of yoga you might hold the posture longer. We hold postures generally about 5 breaths, and then we move on to the next posture. So I think the difference with other types of yoga is a continuous flow. We don't stop for a long time.
So I started in 2010 in Moscow, Russia. And before I started practice Ashtanga Yoga, for me, practicing yoga was like, no, I would better grow pineapples in Siberia or raise 11 kids than do any type of yoga, because I was absolutely unflexible. I was always like this gym orientation, running, jumping, do Thai box, and and absolutely not flexible. And for me, I came to just a class of yoga in the gym. Yeah. And there was the instructor, and that was male instructor, and they were doing some kind of Hatha yoga. Mm-hmm. And I remember he didn't teach us to breathe, but we were holding the postures, and there was very simple posture which I couldn't hold. Yeah. And I remember the teacher eyes, he was very surprised that I can't do that, and he tried to put me in this position, and he tells me something like, oh, this is hard case. So I didn't have good experience, and for me always, yoga for me was always the stereotype of weird people, strange dressed. Also for me, yoga was something not where we use our power. It was something like stretchy, where you come there, relax a little bit, stretch a little bit. And I didn't have any ideas about Ashtanga Yoga. That finally I can use all together the strength of my body. Stereotypically, I thought that in yoga we do not exercise. Right. And that was for me a huge discover that. Yes. Oh my God! Finally, I can do both. I can exercise and plus. Yes. I can stretch.
Yes, I recognize that feeling. Yes. Wanting to do something with your body, feeling like you're working. Yeah. But also working on your flexibility. So as you work on your strength, you work on your flexibility, but you always also work on your mind to focus. Right. So it's a beautiful dance between mind, body, and spirit, actually. Yeah.
You know, people would talk about that they can't touch the toes. I think I couldn't touch my knees or something like that. Very often we hold our traumatic experience from our childhood. Yep. And for me, that was a wonderful feeling that finally I was able to make exhale. Like this. Yes. And we are using this 1.5 hours through the whole practice. People are really able to exhale, what we cannot do in normal life.
No, it helps to heal the trauma, any trauma you have in your body. Right. It helps to heal them, absolutely.
It was just sport train. That's how I started. And I see many people are coming like this.
A lot of people come to Ashtanga Yoga because of its physicality.
Yeah.
Yes. It will give you a strong and flexible body. Yes.
Yeah. My first groups were in residential facility for court-ordered males.
Awesome.
And yeah. And this was, I started to get such a wonderful feedback there on, these people, they are not going to therapy, they are like, oh, I'm not talking about my feelings, but getting in Ashtanga Yoga and have the access to this wonderful, just physical body feeling, and that's when I started to get wonderful feedback too, that people would say, oh my God, this is, finally, I found the way how to relax, how to feel good.
Yes, yes.
And what are they doing in these residential facilities and physically? They are lifting weights, you know? And then they started to do this Ashtanga Yoga, and there was huge resistance. They were thinking about, oh, I'm not doing this ballet or something, and then they realized that why I'm telling this, it's stereotypically people think that yoga is something like some kind of weird, yes.
Ashtanga Yoga is definitely real. It's your feet on the ground. It's just real.
Oh my God, thank you for telling that. Feet on the ground and feel
That's
ground,
what Ashtanga
and that's
Yoga is. Yep. And if your feet are not on the ground, Ashtanga Yoga will bring them on the ground. It'll do that. It'll really root you down, for sure.
I bring in my mind the image of the mountain, and that's how you feel after the practice of, and regularly, more you practice Ashtanga Yoga, more grounded. You feel like a mountain, like that strong, that grounded.
Yes. Yes.
I'm practicing for 7 years and I'm still on the first level, and still I'm not sure that I will be able to pass this first level and go to the second. So could you please tell a little bit more about the levels?
So levels is something to look at. In Ashtanga Yoga there are 6 series. Most people will only practice the first series for the rest of their lives. First series, primary series, is not easy. It takes effort, it takes continuous practice to master all the postures. Once you've mastered these postures of the first series, you would move on to the second, one posture at a time. And so a teacher that you practice with will give you one posture at a time, and one day you will move to the second series. And then you get a posture of the third series, and so on and so forth. But that takes years of practice. The level of all these practices, to me, is not very important. When you get to a certain level, it does demonstrate that you have practiced a lot and you're working hard and you are committed to this practice. But what really is important is your effort on your mat, and that you show up on your yoga mat. That is the level you should look at. Not what your body is able to bend into, but your mind. What is your mind able to bend into? That is much more important. So there's different levels of physicalities, but there's also different levels in people of their mindset. 3
most important things is breath and drishti, right?
Yes.
The points where we're looking, and the posture. Could you please tell a little bit more just about this combination of these 3 things? What does it do?
So there's the asana, there's the vinyasa, the breathing and moving through the postures. There's drishti, where we gaze with our eyes. There's the bandhas, these are there's 3 specific locks in the body. And ujjayi, breathing, a certain type of breath we breathe. That breath is called ujjayi, and it creates a sound coming from the back of the throat. So the breath is number 1. When you go through the movements and through the postures, we breathe this sound breath. The body, while you do your yoga, becomes strong and flexible. The mind gets focused when you breathe this type of breath. Your drishtis help with the focus as well. So what this truly does, this whole practice, coming together with all these aspects of the practice, it becomes looking within. So instead of looking at what can my body do, it becomes what is going on inside of me.
Like you are turning 180 degrees back toward your inner world, right?
Yes, totally. That is truly what the practice does. It's a looking within. Yeah. Yeah. And all these aspects, drishti, bandha, vinyasa, ujjayi breathing, doing the asanas, are actually all geared to that.
Wow.
But we as Westerners, especially Westerners, we are very physically oriented.
All right.
And that is the first tool that we can start with. So this practice is not easy. When you do this practice, it's hard, right? It's hard work to do
yes.
it.
Oh, absolutely.
You sweat, it's difficult, the postures are hard, the jumping backs and the jumping forwards. It's hard work. That is the first step we can take because we can feel this. We can't always understand what's going on in our minds or in our hearts or in our emotional world. So we start with the body. Once you start with the body, over time, it'll go within. And that's a slow process.
It's like building the foundation, right? Like
Yes.
building the foundation where you can then body becoming so strong that it can keep strong mind.
The way you and I are sitting would probably not be possible if we wouldn't have done a lot of yoga.
I know.
We can sit like this for the next hour without a problem. But if I wouldn't have never done yoga or any form of movement, I would probably be sitting like this.
I know.
Or like this. This might even be hard. So the body gets prepared to become more calm and to settle.
Right.
And to go on the deeper levels of the world within and in your mind.
The body is the closest, the shortest way to our unconsciousness.
Yes.
So, and through the body, when we build this strong body, and strong body, not like tearing muscles on the lifting weights, we are really building like strong, all systems, which is young and strong. And this all, like we are building our foundation, and that all what keeps this strong mind.
Yes. Now, it's not a muscular strength.
Right.
It's a strength that comes from within that you're building towards. Your lungs, your heart, your nerves. A lot of things are happening within the practice that builds that strength.
Right.
And when you have that, your mental state changes. Your when you're able to focus on one thing for an hour and a half, most days, it'll change your way, how you think, how your mental wellness is much better through that. It's calmer. We all have chatter in our minds all the time. We worry about the past, we worry about the future, we worry about what's happening now. I mean, actually not much now. We're often not in the now. But this
There or there, yeah.
it's here or there, but often not here. But when you are able to focus for an hour and a half on your yoga practice, or even an hour, very regularly, you practice being here rather than there. So your mental state calms down tremendously. Yeah, it's a fantastic tool for mental well-being.
So to continue about the breath, how would you explain this magic? They tell even that when you start to make this Ujjayi pranayama breath, then your blood starts even like to boil. And what's happening and how does it work for the toxins and everything?
So yeah, the Ujjayi breathing, you create a sound breath, and the breath does not go lower in the lower abdomen, but it expands more in the rib cage and the upper body. And the Ujjayi sound and what happens internally creates a heat in the body. And this heat doesn't come from the outer side where you sweat a lot because it's hot from outside, but this heat is created inside. And from that, you're detoxing your body. So you see a lot in Ashtanga Yoga, there's a lot of sweating going on. And the primary series, it's called Yoga Chikitsa, is actually a detoxifying practice. First, we want the body to get rid of all the toxins before you would be ready to move on to the next phase. And Ujjayi breath helps a lot with that detoxifying.
Wow.
Yeah, and Ujjayi breath has so many fantastic benefits. When I started practicing Ashtanga Yoga and learning this Ujjayi breath, I was starting to do it everywhere. Like when I was standing in line at the supermarket, I was just like catching this breath. Or when I was getting nervous about something, or I was getting angry about something, I would start to breathe this Ujjayi breath, and it would immediately calm me down.
When I work in my mental health set with my clients, that very often it works perfectly with anxiety, just to calm down this emotional wave. And also I even remember with chronic pain patients, you know, when if we use not even practicing Ashtanga Yoga, if we, for example, person walking in the evening, and if to use this type of breath and focus the eyes, just force yourself to focus on something. You are walking and focus on that bird on the tree, or on that, I don't know, on the moon. And making the mind busy with breath and focusing on something, it take away you from the pain.
Yes, absolutely. When I have 2 children, with my first child, I automatically and naturally in labor started breathing Ujjayi breath. It was just my way of dealing with the pain. And it takes the focus on your breath. Your mind goes on the breath. You can hear the sound of your breath. And when you focus with your ears, your nose, and most of your senses on this breathing, it takes the focus away from any pain you have going on. So it's just a helpful tool when you are in pain, have anxiety, have a intense worry. It just takes brings some lightness to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Practice every day. What does it do? Like maybe just 1 or 2 the most important points why we're practicing every day, and why is the best way, honestly, to start the day with the morning with Ashtanga Yoga.
The morning, practicing in the morning, any type of practice like this, yoga, meditation, the mornings are recommended because you wake up and your mind has not been filled with any thoughts. You are clear of mind. It is also the most auspicious time of the day when the sun rises. So practicing in the morning makes it easier to focus and do that dive within. Rather than at night when you've had your whole day, you've worked all day, and mind is full with all kinds of thoughts that you have received throughout the day. So in the morning you don't have that. You're almost more clean in your mind. So the recommendation of practicing every day, well, let me first go to a beginner. If you're a beginner, I would say to not start every day, to go slow, so you do not get overwhelmed and stop. The Western mind easily stops when it gets hard. So start with 2 to 3 times per week. That's quite a lot for a beginner, but do a little. And then when you start to like it, the feeling that you have afterwards, you can increase it. Maybe do a few more times a day, a few more times a week, or increase the length of your practice. I would also not recommend to do a very long practice straight away as a beginner.
Oh yeah.
Slowly, build slowly, so the hunger increases for wanting more. Once you have established a practice, I would recommend do something every day. If you are not able, because of work, children, family life, to do a full practice every day, which is between an hour and an hour and a half, depending on your practice, do a little at least every day. I always recommend to do the sun salutations, the Surya Namaskaras, at least every day, 6 days a week. When I say every day, I mean 6 days a week. Because it keeps the body in its routine, and it keeps the body remembering that it does this every day. It builds muscle memory. And it becomes, over time, much easier to build on that, rather than going once a week. When you go once a week, the body forgets, and it's just difficult.
And it's each time it's challenge.
Yes, and you will not feel differences in the body. You won't progress. So over time, a little every day is much better than a lot once a week. So that is what I always recommend. And then over time, you can build, if that's possible in your life, a 6-day-a-week practice, or if that's not possible, do 4 times a week. You know, when people start this practice, over time it will grow into a habit, like brushing your teeth in the morning. You want it. It makes your day better, and when your days are better, it makes your life better. And you just want to practice. Yeah, but start slow would always be my recommendation.
I think it's important for us in our conversation to address some things for women.
Okay, so where should I start? I'll start with shortly with my story. I did yoga, a different style, Shivananda Yoga, for about 8-9 years before I discovered Ashtanga Yoga. During my time of Shivananda Yoga, I was also a runner. I was actually quite hard on myself. I wanted to have a perfect body, and I wanted to be fit. And I had wrong is not the right word. I had a distorted body image of myself. So I put a lot of pressure on myself. You have to do this, you have to do this, be very active. Then I discovered Ashtanga Yoga. The teacher I was studying with at the time, she did Shivananda Yoga, and she switched to Ashtanga Yoga. So her classes changed, and I went with those changes. And I loved Ashtanga Yoga. And it made me feel good. It took away the pressure somehow, because it's not an easy practice, but after the practice, when I had done it, I just felt, it was almost like a feeling complete. My mind was not busy anymore. I started being less hard on myself. My body felt good. Somehow all these worries that I had fell away, including with how I was eating. I wanted to eat healthy rather than putting it on myself. I had the desire to become more healthy. So that's a very short story, how I came to Ashtanga Yoga, and from there I developed with my first big love, John Scott. He was I love John Scott. He was my first true Ashtanga Yoga teacher, and he inspired me to study with Guruji in India. So Guruji became my teacher, and now I'm here. This was 17 years ago. The women's issues, I think a few of the main issues of women is the pressure they put on themselves of how their bodies look, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, most women, young women and women my age, they have had some form of distorted body image. And yeah, this practice, and not that this is the healing thing for those problems, but what Ashtanga Yoga does do, it does give you your natural body. Your natural body shape comes out when you do this practice regularly. And you somehow forget about working on your body. It just doesn't become... It is not an issue anymore.
Yeah, you're right.
It just goes away because you do this work every day. It feels good in your body. You're calmer. You become more gentle with yourself. You have a better self-understanding. You learn a little bit more who you are. So it just falls away what you look like.
Right.
And I don't know what that is, but there is something magic within it.
It is some kind of healthy, just with this practice, some healthy thoughts or like just coming, and you stop being obsessed with this perfect body image.
Yes, it falls away.
Right.
That has been my experience, and I've seen it quite a lot in women. And what I have seen with a lot of my students, and I teach privately a lot of women, and in the private sessions, what I often recognize is the negative self-talk. It is fascinating how women, particularly, talk down on themselves. I can't do this. My arms are too short. This is too big. That is too big. Whatever it is, there's a lot of negative self-talk. Over time, when you do this practice, they start to recognize it. And it's not helpful for your yoga practice when you have this negative self-talk. If you keep going with that talk, you will eventually stop the practice because it's just too hard to face that every day. Having these negative thoughts, it doesn't feel good. When they can shift it, and most can, it becomes obsolete. It just falls away, and the negative thoughts change into a more clear way of thinking. You don't think about the body as much, or I am this or I am that. You just do your practice. And you don't worry so much about what you look like. It's not important anymore.
Invite somebody or come and practice, and I hear this very often. They would say, oh, I first need to get in shape, and then I need to start to practice.
Or I want to lose weight.
Right, I need to lose weight, or I need to become more strong, and then I can, like, it is from the beginning, they like projecting that they would come to the studio and then people would be watching them, oh, you are, like, you don't look all right, or you are not strong enough, like projecting these situations in the future, and it creates this anxiety, and people never start. This is the thing.
Yes.
It's years after years after years. And
yes. And once you realize when you are in a room with other yogis that nobody's looking at you and everybody's busy with themselves, then it doesn't matter anymore. But that's the first realization you have to have. Nobody's looking at you in a yoga room.
Nobody cares.
Not in an Ashtanga yoga room.
Right.
No, because you're working hard on your own practice. There's no time to look at others. You're busy with your own practice. So,
Right.
I wanted to mention one thing. And another thing that a lot of women have is anxiety about all kinds of things in their life. We all carry so much anxiety with us. Men do too, by the way, but we're talking specifically about women right now. This practice will definitely calm this down. I've had a lot of anxiety in my life, anxiety attacks at the randomest times, and the Ujjayi breath has helped me a lot with that. And the practice throughout the years also has calmed me down. Things are not that hard anymore. Why worry about the little things? You learn this in your practice. It shows up. So anxiety it definitely is calmed down by this practice for sure.
So anxiety, it is.
Yeah, the breath is high.
Yeah, this is anxiety, and it's hard to be anxious when we're breathing like this.
When you have to expand.
Right.
You take it down a notch. Yes. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Pranayama is a very powerful tool.
I see huge amount of women which are blaming for this bucket of ice cream in the evening, and they eat, they relapse, they can stop themselves from eating that, and then blaming. So this all, as well as a body image, it's all with the practice, it's all normalizing. For example, I can overeat and eat this bucket of ice cream. I don't have no problem at all.
No.
And again, usually I see in the community of Ashtanga Yoga, usually people are coming to Ashtanga Yoga not very young, after 30, after 40, when people start to have weight problems.
Yes.
And we never even discuss, like, we have, it's not a problem at all.
No, it balances your eating patterns out.
Right.
And what I think happens is that you become more aware if you practice regularly and almost every day, or very regularly, then you feel these things in the body. You don't want to get drunk every night because your practice will be very affected. So you become a little more conscientious of what you drink and eat. Right. But you can still have everything you want. I mean, I personally eat or drink what I want. I don't overload simply because my stomach, I can't eat a bucket of ice cream, but that's just how it's developed over the years, but I will have ice cream. Yeah, I don't limit myself to anything anymore. It becomes more of a natural way of living with food. It changes for the positive, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, and could you please tell just short 2-3 suggestions for the beginners?
For beginners, start slow and commit. Commit to doing it and be consistent with it for at least 1 or 2 months, and then observe how you feel. And then you go from there. And don't overdo it, little by little at a time. And find a teacher that can teach you well.
What is Ashtanga Yoga in 3 words?
I will answer that with 2 different ones, if I may. Ashtanga Yoga is a moving meditation.
Oh yeah, wow.
That's the first one. The second one, Ashtanga Yoga, is a diving within, a looking within.
Giving all just website and contact information below the video, and could you please tell the formats which you are working in? I know that you are doing here in Monterey Yoga Shala, you are doing your classes, and I know that people are asking now about, do you do something online, or if you are planning to do that online?
Yes, so we are here at the Monterey Yoga, where we do daily classes, workshops, teacher trainings throughout the year. In the future, we plan online classes as well. Me personally, I have a website, Heleen.yoga, where I have online classes planned for the future. I currently have a few workshops that are online, and we'll develop that more and more.
You already do online formats.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so just keep following Heleen, and you have the Facebook pages, right?
Facebook pages, Instagram, Heleen Yoga, and Monterey Yoga as well.
This will be all below the video. Okay, awesome. I think that's great. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you so much, and
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.